Hi, I'm Lisa Zabaniak from Life Like You Mean It. And today we're talking about how you can heal the heart chakra, particularly with the new moon, rituals that you can do to manifest what it is that you are looking to bring in. We're going to talk about three major things that you can be doing to help you heal the heart chakra. One is forgiveness. Two is setting healthy boundaries. And three will be rituals that you can actually do to manifest what it is that you want. So let's get started. So before we get started, let's just stop right here for a moment and just check in to see if you have seen the previous video to this, which is all about the shadow work that you would do for the heart chakra. Now, that video is really quite important because it helps us to figure out if our heart chakra is out of balance. If so, if it's imbalanced by being overactive or underactive, and then gets us working on figuring out what it is that we are ready to release so that we can release it with the full moon. So watching that video ahead would be really helpful for you because now you will have created space to allow yourself to then heal and attract to you what it is that you are looking for to create that balance within. So head on over to this card here so that you can watch that video now. So, part one of our video is about forgiveness. Now, I put this first because it is actually the most difficult thing that anybody could ever ask for you to do, honestly and truly. And so I figure we might as well just tackle this right off the get go because forgiveness is not just about forgiving other people. It's about forgiving yourself as well. And I've got many different videos and many different things that I do to help people with this concept of forgiveness. But if you don't know really how to go about forgiving and you don't really understand what that concept really is, let me just briefly tell you what it's not. So, forgiveness is not about saying that somebody else's or even yourself, that your behavior or their behavior was acceptable. It's not about saying that I will overlook a slight that has been done to me or something that somebody has done to cause me harm, including things that I have done to myself or others. I'm not going to overlook that and say that that was all right so that I can just kind of forgive and forget. That's not what we're talking about here. So, what are we talking about when we talk about forgiveness? What we are allowing ourselves to do is to release the anger, release the disappointment, release whatever that emotion is that was brought up from that behavior from either yourself or the other person. We don't need to have the other person in our lives anymore. We don't need to, go out and have tea or, dinner, socialize with them or not. Sometimes we're in a position where that person does feel like we need to have them in our lives. Maybe there's somebody that you work with and you really enjoy your job. And so this isn't really an option for you to leave work so that you are never around this person. So again, it's not forgiving and forgetting. It's not actually forgiving for them, it's forgiving for you, which means that you might need to do a series of things depending on what the situation is so that you can be all right with being in that person's physical space if that's what you need to actually continue to do without continually bringing yourself back to that memory, that reminder of what it is that they did, and trying to hold them accountable for that, that we can let that go. So, what this often looks like for me personally is for me to sit down and remind myself that everybody has needs that they are trying to meet and that they're going about meeting these needs in a very specific way. But that way is really just what they learned, probably as children. And it was something that it felt effective to them. And so it became a habit. And so the way that they're behaving is not about me or anybody else for that matter. It's only about them meeting their own needs. And it's actually regardless of the impact that it has on other people. And when I remind myself of that, that allows me to take whatever it was that I was taking personally in this situation and remove it. Even when I'm looking at myself, when I need to forgive myself, I can remind myself that whatever behavior it is that I am upset with, with myself, that I can remember I was trying to meet a need. That need was valid. The way I was going about trying to meet the need was not the best way for me to do it. It wasn't serving my highest good, and it also wasn't serving the highest good of the others as well. But I can still look at it with grace and say, I see what I was doing there. I can raise my awareness to say, okay, so really for me to change my behavior and allow myself to forgive myself for that behavior, I need to understand what was driving it, have an understanding of, okay, now that I've raised my awareness about this, I now have the ability to make different decisions. Not just my decision on how I'm going to react in a situation that's similar, because I may never face another situation that's exactly like that one, but I can make different decisions on specifically meeting that need. So I have another video that goes much more in depth about this concept of meeting your needs and how your needs are valid, but the behavior, the way that you are meeting the needs isn't necessarily the best way to be doing it. So that video would be of real help to you here. So go ahead and click this card now or go into the description and find that link, and that will be very helpful to you now. So now that we have looked at forgiveness, and of course, I don't expect that just watching a few minutes on a video, you're going to be able to release and forgive everybody, including yourself. Hopefully, you can see that this is a process, right? And it'll take a period of time. But now that we have at least addressed that, we're going to move into part two of our video, which is setting healthy boundaries. So now this, just like the forgiveness, is also about setting boundaries for other people, but also for yourself as well. So what is it that I mean by that, right? Why would we need to set healthy boundaries for ourselves? Well, I'm sure if you're anything like me and the other billions of people that are on the planet, you can get yourself kind of stuck in a rut. You can get yourself in this situation where maybe you have a goal that you have in mind and you start working towards that goal. And perhaps maybe you work for yourself, you're self employed, you're trying to build your own empire. And so, what that ends up looking like is really long hours where you say yes to a lot of different things because you don't want to miss the opportunity. You don't want to miss the chance, right, of something being the next thing that's going to really help or your next opportunity to help somebody else. So you start putting in all of these hours. You start, trying to figure out how to build a website and how to maintain that website and how to be on social media and how to create all the graphics for social media, how to be a copywriter so you can write the best copy for your sales page and your website and your social media and your right. You start doing all of this stuff and none of it is in your zone of genius. Right? Your zone of genius is what you're actually offering in your business, right? Maybe it's helping others. But you can look at the exact same thing in your work if you work for somebody else, right? You have a specific set of things that you do excellently well. And sometimes your job description requires you to do other things that you don't really like to do, or you're maybe not all that great with, but it is in your job description and you have to do it anyways, right? So these are two similar scenarios, but a little bit different because if you are self employed, you've got the ability to set boundaries with yourself to say, all right, listen, the more time that I spend doing these other things, the less time that I actually get to put into my zone of genius, which this is not the best use of my time. So I'm going to set a boundary with myself. And anytime there is something that needs to be, required of me to learn something new that's going to take more than X number of hours, say, then instead of spending that time learning how to do this and adding another thing to my plate, I'm going to go and find a group within Facebook that is, say, startups, right? Startup entrepreneurs that are looking to try to get referrals, get testimonials. They are willing to do an exchange with you, or they're willing to reduce their fee greatly for a period of time. So maybe it's only 1 month, but that in that month, they are going to be willing to do this thing that is not your zone of genius for maybe nothing, maybe in exchange for a wonderful testimonial for them, maybe for a very reduced cost. But for whatever reason, right, it's going to be less than what it would be for you to go in and find some big conglomerate that does this. So if money is the reason why you are saying, well, no, I've got to do this because I don't have that cash flow, there are other things that you can do so that you are allowing yourself to work in your zone of genius and you are allowing somebody else to work in theirs. Now, of course, if you work for somebody else and this is part of your job description, then yes, that is a little bit different, of course, right? You do have to do these things, but perhaps where your boundaries set for yourself is the amount of time that you allot for these things. So perhaps if it's something that you really don't like doing, rather than setting a whole day to do it, maybe it would be better for you to set certain number of hours throughout that week. Maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you would rather get it all done in one day. So that's the type of boundary that you set, right? So you just have to experiment with this. But let's also talk about setting healthy boundaries with other people, right? Because this is oftentimes where a lot of our heartache comes from. Because if you're a giver, right, which a lot of people are, and a lot of people with an imbalanced heart chakra perhaps became imbalanced because they were so much of a giver that they actually didn't know where to draw that line. And so you give, 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 and you don't give to get something in return, but you do notice when you feel like you're being taken advantage of, where other people are not willing to help you in the same way. If you're the type of person that would drop everything to help someone, and then you are legitimately in need and you reach out to that same person, and they actually have set a boundary where they say, I'm really sorry, I can help you with this tomorrow, or I can chat in an hour, but right now I'm not available. Because you are willing to drop everything, you have an expectation that if somebody else cared, they'd be willing to do the same sort of thing. So the fact that they have set a healthy boundary for themselves doesn't register to you as being a healthy boundary. It registers as they don't care. It registers as they've taken advantage of the fact that you have dropped everything for them in the past. You expect it to be reciprocated, right? Even if you don't realize on a conscious level that you expect that of people, because that's your way of showing that you care, you assume that that is the way that other people show that they care. So that is part of what has caused you some heartache when people have not done that in return. And of course, there will be cases where people wish to not help at all, right? They are not givers. They are not helpers. They maybe push you aside and, start off maybe with a healthy boundary that says, I can look at this for you tomorrow. And then they don't reach out tomorrow. Or tomorrow you reach out again and they ignore you, right? So there are cases where people are just like, they are not givers. They are not helpers. Right? So their healthy boundary is much, much bigger than the healthy boundary that we're even talking about here, right? So sometimes there are going to be people that are going to disappoint, right? And that is fair. You're allowed to feel that. But with this, what I want you to start to do is consider where you can start laying in boundaries with other people. So if you are a giver that drops everything, is it appropriate for you in healing the heart chakra to look at the possibility of leaving yourself open to saying, when somebody reaches out for help, that you will actually take a step back for a moment, look at what's going on in your own life, and if you are feeling like you are overwhelmed, that you have a lot going on your plate right now, that is it appropriate for you to be able to set your own boundary to say, I love you very much. I care about what's going on for you very much. I do have the time right now to listen and be that ear. If you want more, if you want us to brainstorm, get together over coffee, be able to, whatever it is, can I put that aside for 3 or 4 days because I've got, important things that are going on in my life, but I want you to know that I am here, right? So that you lay that out for them to know, because it will be difficult for them. If you have dropped everything in the past, they will be expecting that because you have taught them that that is what you will do. You've taught them that that's the type of person you are. So when you go to set the boundary, they will naturally say, oh, wait a second. Have I done something wrong? Do they not care about me? And so is it possible for you to be able to be open with them to say, you know what? I am feeling so overwhelmed and I'm really trying to do what's right for me too. And so, is this a great compromise? I would like to be here for you right now in this conversation. But our usual thing that we do, I'm going to ask, let's put that off for 3 or 4 days or whatever it is that you need so that you can get yourself straight, that you can be in a good space for yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Side note, I have a beautiful balancing your chakras meditation for you that would be really helpful for you for not just the heart chakra, for any of the other chakras as well. You can go ahead and access that through the link that is down in the description. Go ahead and register for it, and it's totally free. End up in your email inbox within a couple of moments. Enjoy. Now, part three, we are looking at rituals that you can do to manifest. So, what we want to do is we want to be manifesting whatever it is that we would like to replace that which we released. Which, again, if you haven't seen that video about working with the full moon to release right, our shadow work, release what no longer is working for us, go and check that out now. And now that you have that space and you've done this work with forgiveness and, of course, with setting your healthy boundaries, you now have the ability to attract new things. And so perhaps those new things are related to forgiveness. Maybe they're related to healthy boundaries, and maybe they are completely different, right? The heart chakra deals with love. Unconditional love, being open to love. So maybe that's what you would like to attract in your life. So when we are working with rituals, we have done other videos in the past, right? And there are many different things that you can do that are completely up to you, right? You want them to resonate with you. So the best one that I love for welcoming in something new is I like to write it out on a piece of paper. And then I like to actually rip up that piece of paper into tiny little bits for the purpose, not that I'm releasing it and letting it go, but I like to plant it in soil. Now, ideally, what I will do is I will actually use a seed to plant. So the purpose of the ripping isn't to do with what I'm trying to manifest. The ripping is trying to get the paper to already start to be breaking down so it can be nourishing in the soil for the seed. That's the point of the ripping of the paper. Okay. You can also obviously plant it as your full sheet of paper that you've written out. You can plant it in a garden that already exists. And then what you would do is you would water that, of course, on a daily or every other day. And every time that you are putting water either into your garden or onto this seed that you know has your piece of paper for what you want to manifest on there, that you remind yourself. Allow yourself to connect to that energy. So if you're trying to manifest being open for love, right? It doesn't have to be romantic love, it can be any kind of love. Love of yourself, love of others, love from yourself, right? That you connect to a time when you felt fully loved, right? So that might be many, many years ago. It may have been yesterday, right? Connect with that. You don't have to remember the circumstances because it's not about remembering what happened, it's about connecting with the emotion of it. So you've got the emotion that you're fully feeling of being loved, right? Or accepting love or whatever it is. And then you go ahead and you water that seed or that part of your garden that has this piece of paper in it. Yeah. And every single time you do it, you connect with that emotion first. And it's such a beautiful way to welcome in that new thing. You can do this for multiple things, it doesn't have to be just one. Now, I can go on and on and on about manifesting, but this idea of connecting with the emotion is absolutely crucial. Now, there are actually three big secrets to manifesting anything that you want in life. And I've got a course that's just $29.99 US dollars. If you're interested in that, you can go ahead and click the link that's in the description. It's called Manifest Like a Boss. And I would love for you to be part of that community. I hope you found this video helpful. It is always an honor for me to serve you in this way. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so now. Click that subscribe button and don't forget about that icon so that you get notified when I put up my next video, which of course next we'll be moving on up to the throat chakra. I'll see you there.